Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. It's actually the second webinar in our series. And because we got a lot of questions from our current customers and people we know in the CX community, everyone was asking us about what ChatGPT means for customer support. And one of the biggest questions was, what are the actual use cases? What are really like real applications to the real, world of customer support? So, as a background, so we wrote some white paper and then we did some product launch on Product Hunt. So we did some work here. So, and then we were excited to share with some of our findings. We're going to be presenting some slides just to kind of, discuss what we see and what we are excited about. And of course, please feel free to send your questions and yeah, that's we want to make this as interactive as possible. So I'm here with my co-founder and CTO Norm, and we're excited to kind of share this webinar with you. So my name is Chyngyz. For those who don't know me, I'm a co-founder and CEO at Kodif. Kodif helps non-technical CX teams with automations without engineering resources. And in the past few months, we were very excited what GPT unlocks for non-technical teams as well. So, and here to you, Norm, if you could maybe introduce yourself, how you ended up in the world of customer support. And yeah, and then I think we can start the webinar.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Chyngyz. So I was, before starting Kodif, I was with Uber for 5 years. I was within customer obsession team, which was basically the support team within Uber. So I was the part of the engineering arm, and we built a lot of automations, a lot of AI systems, and other things internally for Uber. And yeah, a lot of learnings, a lot of insights. So as a result of that, we kind of decided to start this company.
Awesome. Thanks.
That's quickly about myself. And currently we're working on a lot of AI capabilities in customer support. And I think that's what we want to talk about here.
Yep. Awesome. I think, yeah, Norm, I think we can start maybe from just, right off the bat, start the presentation and share what we've been working on. And I think the audience here might, anytime, please ask your questions.
All right. Can you see the screen,
Yes.
Chyngyz?
I can see the screen. I can see the screen. So I think it's all good. Just a quick kind of background on this topic, as I mentioned. So we've been getting a lot of requests, and we've been talking to so many people from CX community, and this was inspired by our conversations with you guys. I mean, and we were like, okay, we're doing some stuff, but then we were not really like marketing it. We were not showing people that what we were working on, and this was basically the inspiration from all the conversations we've had with CX experts, just like yourselves. Cool. Norm, if we can, maybe I can quickly talk about the agenda for this webinar. So Norm will be presenting most of the time, but basically the way we were thinking about agenda today was just, quick introduction to LLMs, large language models, and quick kind of, background on like ChatGPT, GPT 3.5 versus GPT 4. I was personally very impressed by how much GPT-4 can do more than GPT 3.5. We're going to touch upon that as well. And number 3 question is basically a very important one, which is why this is a big deal for customer support and what it actually means. Also, we have around 10 use cases for GPT, and we are excited to present you with 2 of our like applications. And it's going to be a live demo, which I think Norm will show you to you as well. And also, we're going to share some additional resources you can find, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So that's the idea. Norm, do you want to take us to the second the background of LLMs and the rest of the presentation.
Yep. Thanks, Chyngyz. So basically, this is a history of language models. It's a bit, for the technical audience, so I'm going to skip a lot of that. So the idea is not new. I mean, the language model started pretty early. It was one of the early fields in the ML, basically. But I think where it really started picking up is with the transformer models. So that started happening around 2010-ish. And then the last few years, and I think that's when really LLMs, right, large language models, that's when they started emerging. And GPT is not the only company, OpenAI is not the only company that's doing it. There is also Meta, there is Google, and others as well. But I think what OpenAI did really well is to provide the APIs and engage the community. And they also released, with the release of ChatGPT is when all the hype really started happening, right? So that's kind of quickly, I'm not gonna go into these specifics here. And overall, we also wanted to touch base on GPT-4 versus GPT-3 models and what is better, because a few weeks ago, GPT-4 was announced and a lot of people it's a bit technical if you start reading the announcement, but basically for the customer support, I think what matters is the accuracy is higher now. You've probably seen that it's able to take like the bar exam and some other tests and actually pass them with pretty good results. Also, the reply time is faster now. So what it means is when you kind of make a request to them, they reply faster, the OpenAI. The exciting new development was the ability to analyze images. So now you can give it an image and you can ask something. So from the customer support perspective, it could be things like, how many items do you see in this image, right? Or do you see a damaged packaging in this image, stuff like that. There's steerability. So now you can steer the model in whatever directions you want to kind of steer it. Higher response word limit. So I think the limit that's been there so far, it increased by 8 times, 8-fold. So that's important because now you provide even more context when you're trying to get an answer, like for whatever question you're asking. So now the context can be much bigger. So as an example, it's basically, I think it's 52 pages of content. You can provide it as a context right now, which was, with GPT-3, it was like 8 times less. And support for more languages. So there were some languages, like smaller languages that less represented. So GPT-4 added all of that as well. So that's the gist. And you can see the size of like how bigger kind of the model is, and that's that represents that's the increase in accuracy here. I think that's what it represents basically. Cool. I think that's about the difference.
Yeah.
And why is this important? Chyngyz, you wanted to?
Yeah, we talk a lot about, kind of at Kodif, we really are passionate about enabling non-technical teams to build more stuff, to enable small or medium-sized companies to build very sophisticated tooling, as large companies can build only. So, for example, with Kodif, we think about enabling build some self-service automations without engineers, just like Uber and Amazon. And why we are so excited about this technology actually is that this democratizes access to ML to small or medium-sized companies, which was not accessible before because of 2 main reasons. One was data, because larger companies, they tend to possess more data, so which they can train as a result. And number 2 was training, and training was expensive, and you need to have ML engineers. You have to have access to certain talent, which is pretty expensive as well. So with GPT and like LLMs, we think that this kind of removes this barrier to small or medium-sized companies. This is why we're so excited about it. Norm, you want to take us to maybe to use cases, and I think we're going to touch every use case in more detail in the next slides.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing also we forgot, I think, in the previous slide, really quickly. So the OpenAI also released the Whisper. It's kind of technology, I guess. So with Whisper, the speech recognition, improved by a lot. So from OpenAI specifically, they said that it approaches the human level robustness and accuracy on English speech recognition, which is also important for support when it comes to voice channel, right? Voice modality. Cool. So yeah, to go back, so the main use cases we're going to talk about today are how it can be used in chat conversations, the concept of dynamic macros. So the save replies that you regularly use with your existing CRMs. So now they can be more dynamic, more versatile. How you can improve your knowledge articles using GPT, and summarization, basically how you can take a text and summarize it. There are a lot more other things where you can use GPT, but we decided to choose these 4 and focus on them for now, and maybe in sometime in the future we can also talk about them as well. All right, so let's start with the first use case. So that's the chat conversations, I think. Yeah, first of all, I just want to, we're going to use chatbots here, even though I know it's not very popular in customer support community to use this word. It has some bad history, I guess. But when you talk to people, that's what everybody usually uses. So I'm just going to use that here as well.
Yeah.
So big question is, how is this better than old school chatbots, right? What's the difference really when it comes to implementation, let's say? So first of all, you can create a much higher quality chatbot right now without a lot of data. And that's the part about making this democratizing support here, right? Because to build a high quality chatbot previously, you need a lot of data, because that's how ML training, that's how it worked. So with GPT, a lot of human language and understanding is already trained, right? So looking at your existing kind of knowledge base articles once is enough for GPT-3 to give you pretty good and accurate answers. Second is, it kind of correlates with the first one, is you don't need a lot of training and engineering anymore, because you just showed it, you just kind of, you ingest all the available data, of course, in the proper format. And then, of course, you'll need to fine tune it a little bit, but then the model is pretty much ready. And really the challenge here is, like, if you just really want to take and hit the OpenAI APIs, like a prompt, right? Like everybody played already, I'm guessing, with GPT, you cannot really take all your knowledge base, dump it in the prompt, and then ask questions, because then there is a limit to like how big your prompt can be. With GPT-4, of course, that limit is going to go up to 52 pages. So if you have a very small kind of knowledge base that fits into 52 pages, then it becomes super easy. But most companies have a lot more information than that. So that's where the challenge is. How do you kind of provide enough context to the model and at the same time prevent hallucinations, prevent the model to answer questions that, that are not, the answers are not present in your knowledge base. The second point is the semantic versus keyword match. So this is a bit technical, but basically older chatbots, they use, a lot of them use keyword search. It's an advanced keyword search, and there is ML applied on the top. So now really with GPT and large language models, with the concept of embeddings and the quality of embeddings that OpenAI provides, we are getting really close to the semantic match. And semantic basically means meaningful, like based on the meaning, right? So you can ask a question where the keywords don't match at all to the question that's available in your database, but it's still gonna understand that that's the question. And again, I'm going to show you a quick demo around that as well. With GPT, also multi-language out of the box. Again, I'm going to show you a demo around that as well. You can really have a content in a different language, and you can ask a question in yet another language, right? And it's just going to answer you that question. It will automatically kind of understand and translate, both questions and answers, which is really exciting. It makes it possible for a lot of like non-English speaking countries to just adopt this new technology. Personalization, I think this is where the big opportunity really is. However, here you really need to have access to your internal data. And the more data you have, the better. And now you can take your data and you can interlink it with your kind of existing knowledge base and your existing history of conversations. And you can have really personalized answers here as well. All of the above, everything I mentioned, also applies to other text channels, such as email, SMS, social media, right? Because it's just one interaction basically, instead of forth and back, but it's very similar to the chat interactions. And in the near future, with GPT-4, now we'll be able to take images and answer based on your images. From the experience, we've seen that a lot of knowledge base articles, they contain screenshots of like, hey, this is what you need to do. And now, exciting thing is that, now we can understand what's inside the image and possibly answer the questions based on what's in the image. So that's quickly about the possibilities within the kind of text realm. And yeah, a shameless plug on our side, we have a kind of a playground where we can showcase some of the functionality that's possible through GPT, basically. Chyngyz, anything you'd like to add?
I think at the high level, this was just kind of for a demo purpose only. So a couple of things. So I think, Norm, if you go to the next slide. So yeah, it basically creating a chatbot in 4 clicks and 15 minutes. So that's the idea behind this ChatGPT Playground. Is you just select your CRM ticketing system. You use your URL of your help center, and you just click next, and then in 15 minutes you will get an email with a link to your help center chatbot, which is built on your help center. And here we did some extra like stuff, fine-tuning, which is limiting the chat in terms of answering it to any question. So I think to previous point, which Norm made about hallucinating. So we don't want your help center chatbot answer any question, like, what is a day-to-day or something that is not relevant to your business. So that's kind of what we have right now. This is kind of free, you're just free to kind of play around with. The bigger idea here is that if you give us access, let's say, or any company like us, you give access to your internal tickets and all more data, internal wiki, then this could become even a more powerful tool, but on its own. So that's kind of the idea, and I think maybe we can, if some of the participants you want to try this out, please go on the page, which is, I think, which is going to be provided at the end of the presentation, and in 15 minutes you're going to get your chatbot. But that's kind of what I wanted to say here, Don.
Yeah, thanks, Chyngyz. So by the way, when we say 15 minutes, that's if you are using some existing popular CRMs, Zendesk, Customer, Intercom, etc. If it's a custom help center that you have, that will require us to actually do some work. Cool. So I wanted to show you a demo. So let me, without further ado, I'll show you a few things. So this is roughly how the playground looks like. And we just chose one company, Good Eggs. So they do grocery deliveries in California. So here, let's say we've parsed their existing help center, and let's ask some questions. Let's say I ask, do you deliver to Canada? Oh, I think I need to refresh it. Okay, so it gave you an answer, but it also said you should check this article for more information. But when we check this article, it actually says that the delivery happens only within SF Bay Area and Los Angeles. It doesn't specify that, you know, Canada is not included. But with GPT, we're able to understand that, okay, Canada is not part of these two regions, so we don't deliver to these regions, right? So again, as I said, it's more semantic, it's more meaningful, the answers. The other example I wanted to show, oh, by the way, if we ask it a question that's like irrelevant, so this is not, this is not going to answer this question because, you know, this is not contained within this company's help center. And that's like the keeping the customer within that box, let's say. Other functionality is, so this is another company with kind of parsed their content. They are a network of charging stations in Europe. So their knowledge base is actually in
Dutch.
I think it's Netherlands. It's Dutch, yeah. So here, my question would be, do you charge Tesla in English? Oh, sorry. The session expired. I need to refresh it. Sorry. Do you charge? Here you go. Okay. So it says that Tesla is not supported, but here is the link to the Help Center article. When you click on that link, the content is actually in Dutch, right? So I'm guessing it kind of provides description here, but that's basically the kind of the capability here. The language happens very seamlessly, the translation. Cool. Right, so that was a quick demo. As Chyngyz mentioned, you can go on that website and get onboarded and see, like, play with your existing knowledge base. Cool. So I'll switch to the second use case, which is dynamic macros. So here we have, how does it compare to the old school macros, right? So the old school macros, usually agent would need to, you know, type like semicolon and start typing, or maybe just go click on a drop down and find the macro that's relevant. Here, we can actually identify what's the correct macro given the ticket, the message in the ticket. Second is we are able to generate different text so that the replies, they don't sound robotic, they don't sound the same every single time. And what's really exciting is also that your company's style. So we can look at your existing tickets, and you can see, okay, this is how company replies to the messages. Maybe it's more formal, maybe it's more apologetic, or whatever it is. Plus, we can actually also kind of customize and incorporate each agent's personal style, right? Because from experience, we've seen that agents usually go and, even though they select existing macro, they go and modify it because that's how they usually reply to the messages. So here we can look at the history and kind of do the same for them. And on the top, as agents use these kind of suggestions, macros, right? The model is getting fine-tuned. That's a technical lingo: fine-tuning, reinforced learning, training. So basically, as agents accept the suggestion or decline the suggestion, right? We learn that which suggestions are good, and based on that, the model gets even better over time. And overall, this concept is not limited to macros, right? Because what LLM is, what these models, big models really are, they are really next best action models, right? So given something, given a question, what would be the next kind of natural continuation of that? So with that theoretical kind of background, here we're applying macros, but you can also apply actions, right? The actions that agents normally take. So maybe they go and refund some amount, or maybe they go and cancel, or maybe like whatever they do. And that's where kind of next best action. It can be a suggestion like, oh, maybe you should refund this person this much. I don't know. So that's where kind of the next step here, exciting step, is. So that's the second use case. And again, shameless plug on our side. So we have like this product, we call it AI Agent Assistant. It's basically a Chrome extension, Chrome plugin, which agents install on their Chrome. And this we kind of train using your existing KB articles, your previous tickets, and we can auto-generate responses using, as I mentioned, your brand voice or your agent's personal voice as well. And of course, agents can correct the message by specifying what they really want to convey as well, right? And here we have a little animation of a question about the gift card, and this plugin of ours, it kind of shows one version of the reply, and then if you click on regenerate, it shows you another version of reply. And once agents really like whatever they see, they click on send and it just goes away. So it really kind of, you can think of it as empowering, supercharging your agents. Cool. Another use case.
Norm, I just want to add a small comment here, is that we've seen that this is super helpful for agents who are based out of the US and they're not English native speakers. So, you know, if you have agents in Argentina or somewhere else, then I think some customers were interested in learning like how to make their agent sound more natural and native, right? So that was something interesting we've seen so far.
Yeah. Also, another use case was actually, let me go back, with this next best action idea. We are prototyping it, but basically the idea is that in a lot of support teams, there is a constant training on onboarding happening, because I mean, in a lot of teams, there is a pretty high churn, basically. So the onboarding and training is much easier when the suggestions happen, and new agents, they can look at the suggestions and they can say, oh, okay, it seems that's how, you know, this ticket can be solved, or at least historically has been solved. So it's a good kind of, it makes them more confident about their choices, right? So that was kind of another unexpected advantage that we saw, but again, we're still kind of experimenting with that. Okay, cool. So the third use case is the knowledge base. So here, really, the technology GPT can identify the gaps in existing knowledge base, and we can suggest new articles, basically. So let's say, and not just the topics, not just like, okay, it seems you don't have a lot of content around cancellations. No, not just that. It can also suggest what should be in that body of the knowledge base, right? So again, what happens is we'll look at the historical conversations between your agents and customers, and for the specific topic, let's say cancellations, we see that agents have been replying in the specific way. So we take that kind of cloud of replies and we, you know, ask GPT to generate us a new version of that, or like a common version of that. And that's how we're able to kind of almost generate the content. And what's in reality, if you have existing content writers on your team, that becomes a great help. I'm sure they are already using GPT kind of generative functionality. They just, you know, to write their content. And if you don't have any content writers, then it becomes your like virtual AI content writer almost, to fill in the gaps within your existing knowledge base. And the interesting thing is that if you have a, let's say, automation, let's say a chatbot, which is working on the top of your knowledge base, then by writing this content, you're automatically kind of making your chatbot smarter, right? You're increasing the coverage basically of the chatbot. So source, as I mentioned, the source of the data here is so how it happens, right? So the kind of, we analyze the tickets, the categories that are not handled by your knowledge base. And of course, you need to exclude non-generic categories. So what I mean by that is, like, if somebody is asking questions like, where is my order, right? I mean, that's definitely not something that you can put in a knowledge base, because it's very personalized, it's very specific to the customer. So first, there is some work to exclude these non-generic categories, but then whatever is left becomes generic categories. So questions and answers that can be contained within your existing knowledge bases, basically. And then we take the history of responses, as I already mentioned, and we kind of generate the body of the knowledge base based on that. And I already mentioned about the feedback to the chatbot if you have one. And use case 4, summarization. Basically, this is where this is very useful for specifically for voice conversations, where you have your very long, maybe voice recording, like maybe agent's been talking to a customer for 30 minutes. And then you want to kind of, we can take that, we can turn it into text using speech recognition, and then summarize it, right? And then that summary can be added to your existing CRM. And whenever another agent looks at that previous ticket, they don't have to listen to the 30 minutes of conversation. They can just look at that summary and say, oh, okay, I know what happened. The bigger benefit here really was for QA, because QA is better able to kind of go through that summary and say, oh, okay, like this is okay ticket. And they can quickly identify the tickets where something, let's say, went wrong, right? And they can start going there now and listening to the whole 30 minutes. Yeah, I think that's kind of, and of course, with the GPT-4, there is this new Whisper technology, which kind of makes it, increases the speech recognition even higher. So I think the Tesla's former director was saying that the accuracy of this of Whisper speech recognition is through the roof. So it's really something new in like the voice domain as well. Cool. And then other use cases, just to touch base on them, I'm not gonna go deeper. Ticket classification, right? So you can provide a few examples of like, okay, I want this kind of tickets to be in this category. And GPT-4.3 does a pretty good job in categorizing the tickets. Smarter IVRs, due to the better speech recognition with Whisper, as I mentioned, and also better understanding of the text, right? Again, this goes back to classification. So it's better able to understand you, and then better able to generate the proper answer for you. Let's say the same answer from the knowledge base, it can be read back to you basically through the IVR to the customer. Interactive email, SMS tickets. So this is something we have already in production as well. So basically, when let's say by interactive, I mean, let's say email comes in asking for, hey, I want a refund for my order, right? And maybe the company has a policy, they always ask for an image before they do that. So by getting that email or SMS, understanding, oh, okay, this is a refund ticket, and then you can automatically send a question to the customer asking for the image. And then if the customer sends an image back, kind of again with GPT-4, now you can analyze images and maybe even make a decision based on it. Another example, image recognition. Again, I kind of mentioned it. I mentioned it a few times already. Decision automation. This is where I think this is a bit more sophisticated part of it. That's where you kind of can automate the decision to issue the refund, right? That's usually done by humans, or decision to, I don't know, other things like that, cancel an account and stuff like that. That's usually kind of not as straightforward. It requires a bunch of steps. And all these steps kind of rely on the information that comes from your existing kind of knowledge bases, maybe, or even existing kind of internal CRMs, user databases. So it's a bit more sophisticated because you now need to pull all of the data to make a decision. Yeah. It becomes a bit more complicated. And finally, the GPT Playground. And I think here, yeah, Chyngyz, can you, do you remember this part? I'm
Yeah, of course.
blanking.
It's basically just creating a simple chatbot using your KB articles, which we showed earlier. So that's pretty much it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. I think.
Okay, cool. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I guess here, I think for those who want to learn more, so we published a white paper on ChatGPT and its use cases we see in customer support. Also, as we mentioned, so here's a link to the ChatGPT Playground where you can just go and create a chatbot based on your KB articles for your company. And AI agent assistant. It's a link to our webpage, which can kind of give you more information about it. But yeah, this is our emails. You can find us, Norm at Kodif AI, C at Kodif AI. As you can see, my name is hard, so I decided to go with one letter. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. And I see that we have one question here, Norm. Can you see that question? And the question is coming from Brett Fraser. Can the ChatGPT integration also automate case closure components? For example, dispositioning.
Yeah. So that's, I think, kind of related to that decision automation part that I mentioned here. You need to kind of pull all the components that are required to make a decision. And based on these components, then you can decide yes or no. So yes, but it's a bit more sophisticated use case, which requires a bit more time and energy investment, I guess.
Right.
I hope that was helpful, Brett.
I hope it was so. But please feel free to ask any questions here in the chat. The plan was to, do this webinar in 35 minutes. Then we have 10 minutes for Q&A. So yeah, we'll be here hanging out. Please feel free to ask any questions. I guess we also wanted to do polls. I think we did some polls actually. Okay, cool. I'm excited to share some polls. Like we did some polls in the meantime while we're waiting for more questions. So question was, Norm, have you considered using GPT in your customer support? So there were 3 options. One is yes, planning, still exploring. And so, and we had the 3rd option, which was no, not interested. So apparently there are no people who are not interested. So, but 8 out of 9 people are exploring. So I think this is the place for you to be, which is awesome. And one person I think is already kind of planning on using it already. So which is great. Another, yeah, I think Brett. Can you see Brett's answer, Norm?
Yes. Of the different use cases, where do you see the impact to cost reduction, efficiency versus customer experience versus agent experience, and how do you quantify these measurement assumptions? That's a very good question. I think that's like kind of a pain point as well at the same time. Let me take it in a few. So there are a few questions here, basically. Overall, if you look at GPT, I think as any new technology, right, there will be a lot of side effects, positive, negative, neutral. And I think we should, I think Sam Altman was talking about it. We should look at it as a calculator. Like, remember a time when, well, we probably don't remember, but somebody does. There was a time when, school kids switched to calculator. And I think in schools it was a big deal, like, hey, we are making our kids dumber because they don't know how to do they're not going to learn some basic math. So I think here it's kind of going to be the same. It will empower agents. It will empower, to be honest, within our company, even engineers are using it. They are generating the code to kind of, for very simple things. So it's gonna change a lot of things, I think, especially for white collar workers, office workers, people working in front of computers. And the society will kind of adapt to that. And I think it's better to start experimenting with it fast to learn like what's going to happen, what's going to change, and just adapt to it faster. In terms of cost reduction, I mean, yes, there will definitely be cost reduction, I think, through kind of reduction of tickets overall. And in terms of efficiency, agents honestly is just going to become more efficient. It's going to increase the average handle time of, decrease the average handle time of tickets. And how do we quantify these measurements? I mean, cost reduction is, I think, is easier to quantify because the cost reduces. With agent experience, that's where I think it's going to be a bit harder to quantify. But I think from our experience, when it comes to kind of customer support, the managers, they also care about kind of agent satisfaction, right? Because happy agents mean happy customers. So that's another factor. And we do see that. We see that people, agents, we've been interviewing agents who are already using the technology, and when they are able to quickly answer a ticket, they just feel satisfied. It just gives them this boost of satisfaction. And so that way they can work on these more complicated use cases when they are kind of maybe arguing with the customer, or not arguing, listening to what they have to say, versus just getting the response and accepting it and then moving on to the next one. And I see another question from Josh Keller. How do you approach analytics around how users agents interact with the bot? For example, when ChatGPT doesn't know the answer because our knowledge base doesn't have an article on the topic, how do we see that? Okay, yeah. So we record all the interactions, and whenever answer was not provided, we just record it. So we have all the data, and then based on the data, we can also start adding more knowledge base articles, basically. There is a little technical piece there as well. Let's say the question was asked, and knowledge base actually did have an answer, right? But the specific question just did not match somehow the understanding of the GPT, and it couldn't link that there is an answer. So in these cases, there are some mechanisms here actually. Again, they actually involve GPT as well. So we take the text and we ask GPT, can you generate me a few variations of the text, right? And then we use that as an input. So that increases the coverage area and of your existing knowledge base as well. So yeah, hopefully I was able to answer that question, Josh.